The road to Civil War. Civil War, a lot of people talk about it. Most people don't understand what it really is, and too many people are under the impression that we've already had one, which we haven't. So I'm going to talk about that because there is a possibility that we could be moving in that direction. And this is the second one of the day that I'm making for both the main channels, Integrative Preparedness and American Reversion. I just put up one about RAW. We are living in a world without rule of law, because when the law is not applied equally, there is no law. It's a country of men, not of laws, and our country was supposed to be a country of laws, not of men. So Civil War, what's coming? Now, most people think that they know all about the Civil War because they stayed awake through most of high school history classes, and they went to most of their college history classes. And so they know that the Civil War was all about slavery, and it was all about the South attacking the North and trying to keep their slaves and all these things. And the North went down there valiantly under the leadership of Abraham Lincoln, the great emancipator, and saved the Union and freed the slaves. Got that? Have you swallowed that BS? Did you ever question it? That's not at all what it was. First off, it wasn't a civil war. It wasn't a civil war. It was an attack by the United States on sovereign countries, which had separated constitutionally. I've made videos on this, if you want to look into it. Maybe I'll do another one on that. I don't know. Once I cover something, I don't feel I need to cover it again, but sometimes I do. We have new people here. Because of situation, because the federal government, let me know if this rings a bell. The federal government, driven by industrialists, the big businessmen and the big banks, were treating a whole section of the country badly. And the section of the country that they were treating badly, putting all sorts of taxes and tariffs on and such, were the southern states, which were more agricultural, as opposed to the northern states that were more industrial. So the southern states, beginning with South Carolina, said, well, this really isn't what we signed up for, and we're not going to be treated unequally. And so guess what? We want a divorce. Have we heard that recently? We separate ourselves. Now, they had every right to do that constitutionally. It's been argued that they didn't, and even Scalia, Judge Scalia, made the most asinine, don't worry, I'm getting back to what we're leading up to the Civil War, most asinine argument about why he felt the issue of secession had been settled by the Civil War. And I know that Antonin Scalia was supposed to be this amazing, judicial giant, but his arguments were ludicrous. They could have been destroyed by a pre-law student. I write about it in one of my books. I forget which one. I write quite a bit about that in the Stonemont series. I'll get back to that in a minute. I write about that. I'm not going to go into what his reasons were here, but they were ridiculous. So South Carolina says, no, we're leaving, because see, the states, this colonies, states, they were each a sovereign country, a sovereign state, let me put it that way. And in this case, you can say country, state, whatever. They came together to create a common central government that would only function within very limited confines, having to do with the general defense of the country and certain interstate situations, keeping an interstate judicial system going. So they left. And then other southern states followed suit. And then Abraham Lincoln called for 70,000 troops to be brought up from the states to go attack the South, to force them to stay within the Union. Many of the states refused because they said, we're not going to attack other Americans who have a perfect right to secede from this ridiculous. See, it was kind of like an abusive marriage. You don't have to stay in an abusive marriage, right? But it was kind of like the abusive husband in the marriage chasing down the escaped wife, beating her into submission and dragging her back. That's what that thing was. Wasn't a civil war. A civil war is when two or more factions fight for the control of the same government. The South didn't want the same government. They just wanted to be left alone. Just leave us alone. You're not treating us right. We're gone. That's it. North attacked them, decimated, more than decimated, destroyed the South and the southern states, from which many are still recuperating. Okay. If any of this surprises you, please go study it yourself. Maybe I'll talk about it again. Maybe not. We'll see. We have the potential for a true civil war now because we have an entire party in our country that is essentially a criminal organization. That's right. A criminal organization that allows and promotes crime by their side and persecutes non-crime against others. You know what I'm talking about. A civil war begins when there are enough people who finally get upset enough that they will stand up and rise up. And they will, at first, protest. And in this way, it's very similar to a revolution. But, we're going to stick with civil war right now. Very similar to a revolution. That's how it gets started. No, we want to redress our grievances and all this. And then the oppressor shuts them down. Throws a bunch in jail without charging them. Does that sound familiar? Makes up cases, prosecutes and persecutes opposition leaders. Well, you don't need further explanation on that. I'm going to tell you 3 ways that we can go to civil war right now. Now we know, I wrote these down in my Stone Mountain notebook so that I wouldn't forget them. How a civil war could start. Okay. Now we know what the situation is. The dummies up there in New York, that prosecutor has said that he has indicted, or the grand jury has indicted Donald Trump, a former president, over, he didn't say they were made up charges, but hey, the statute of limitations has run out long ago. But we're going to get back to that in a second. He says, so he's going to indict Ron DeSantis in Florida, where Trump lives at Mar-a-Lago, has said that he won't participate in the extradition of Trump. Okay, so what if Trump is at Mar-a-Lago and they unseal this indictment and issue a warrant for Trump? Now what happened? I'll get back to that in a minute as to what could happen. Well, many people who know Trump say, well, he's not going to stay away. He's going to be there. He's going to fight it. He loves fighting. He's a fighter. He's going to use this, and I think that's a good idea. He's going to use this to expose exactly what's going on in the system. He's going to use this to continue going after the swamp. He's going to fight this. A lot of truth is going to come out in this process. I agree to a certain extent on that. I have heard those far I wish, in dreamland. This is all a part of the plan. This had to happen. This was Trump's brilliance and setting all this stuff up so that we get all the people out of the weeds. It's the old Q argument, which is BS. I'll do a separate one on the truth about Q another time. I'll tell you the truth about Q. Well, how do you know about that, Steve? Trust me. So, say he doesn't go. Say Trump refuses to appear and stays in Florida. Now, some people are going to say, I don't think that's going to happen. I don't either, but here is a scenario. What if he really wanted to push it? What if he wanted this fight to get even bigger? What if he learns that there is a setup waiting for him, and why wouldn't we think that there is? He decides to stay in Florida. DeSantis refuses to extradite. And even though it's a state charge, now, a state charge. I used to be in fugitive apprehension. I know how this stuff works. Somebody gets caught in another state. They arrest him. They call us, hey, you want your guy? We say, yeah, it was a felony, so we want him. Or it was a traffic ticket. No, I'm not going to fly out and bring him back for a traffic ticket. So there are things called interstate compacts that states have agreements with each other. And that is, if I catch one of your guys, I will send him back if you want to extradite. And then they ask the guy, do you waive extradition? Which extradition is the process, the legal process through which one state, appeals to the other. Hey, we want our guy. Would you send him? The other state says, yeah, okay, we will. It's reviewed by a judge in the host state. Okay, probably more than you all wanted to know. So New York says, hey, we have this indictment against Trump, which we have phonily, meaning phony, kind of like bigly, we have increased it up to a felony. And now they could say this, even it was a misdemeanor, but he's failed to appear in court. But they'll throw something in to make it a felony. So now we want him. Send him back. DeSantis says no. I'm not going to do it. What happens then? Will the federal government step in? They could. Why? Because let's go to number 2. Now what happens there? What happens when now a state is against the federal government? A federal government is coming against a state. What happens? This is what would happen during that previous war that they called a civil war. But the dynamics are different. Let's go to our second scenario, which is going to refer back to the first. Or they attempt to take Trump into custody, and Secret Service faces off with NYPD. What would happen there? All of a sudden, let me give you this scenario. They haven't unsealed the indictment, but so we don't really know what's in it. We hear that there's 30 or 34 and there are misdemeanors and all that. These people are dirty. They're evil. Okay. How do we know there's not a federal indictment in there? How do we know there aren't federal charges in there? He shows up. For all he knows, for all his lawyers knows, he's going to go through the arraignment process. Everything, he's going to have a photo op, give a great speech, get a lot of backing. But then after he's arraigned on those state charges, well, guess what? Here's a couple of federal charges. Now, his Secret Service details there protecting him, right? New York NYPD is protecting everything. But now there's a federal charge. And who is there to take him into custody on a federal charge? U.S. Marshals. Now, when the U.S. Marshals say, we are going to take him into custody, and the Secret Service says, no, you're not, what do we have? Where does that go? Don't anybody come on here and say, that would never happen. Have you seen anything lately over the last, 100 years that people said that'll never happen? Yeah. Let's go one more. What do you think would be the result of that if they charge him and then They put him in jail with no bail. The question there is, what will the Patriots do? Will all those people who have been stomping their feet and pounding the desk, saying what they will do, what will they do? Maybe they'll do some, maybe not much. I mean, we've heard a lot of foot stomping and desk pounding over the years about what they'll do. They don't do it. The talkers rarely do anything. And by that, I mean, I don't mean like you all talking or us talking here about what could happen, because you should do that. But those who say what they're gonna do, I'm gonna do that, that cold dead hands, fight it on my doorstep, all this stuff, we've got to do something. Well, half of those are informants who say that, right? And probably more than half. They're not gonna do it. And the ones who would do that, say something like that, are too stupid to worry about. So what would happen? Was January 6th a lesson? Will January 6th make people stand down and say, well, I'm not going to go, I'm not even going to go protest? I mean, if that's what happens now, see, that's what they're teaching the country. If you even come up and protest, don't do any damage or anything, hey, you're going to prison. A couple of years, 4 years, whatever we say. You're going to lose your job. You're going to lose probably your house. Your family's going to go through hell. See, that's the message that they're sending. So what happens as a result of that? Well, maybe nothing. Maybe our country continues to go down, farther down the path of complete oppression. Maybe enough people finally get sick of it and certain elements arise, political elements arise. Jim Jordan, Comer, all those, some strong leaders. Maybe they say, you know what? We need to up our game. We need to take it to another level. And then enough of the people in this country go, yeah, I think you're right. And then they start, it's not going to be big. I mean, it's not going to be a national thing. It's going to be local. Little here, little there, and that's how it explodes. Either of those three scenarios, which are interconnected, kind of interconnected. They could follow one another. They could operate separately. They could touch up on certain points. Any of those could result in a true civil war, to where an entire segment of the people are sick enough of what's going on in this country that they will rise up and try to take control of the government in ways other than by voting and political. You see, wars start when politics fail. Now, what should you do? What you should do is do everything you can politically. And as I said on the other one, I have an entire list. And here's funny. I have an entire list that I'm going to talk about on each individual channel, on integrative preparedness and American reversion. And because they're different. American reversion is about politics. Integrative preparedness is about preparedness. Okay? And I learned that many people who are interested in preparedness aren't prepared to prepare politically or financially, whether that's because they don't feel like they're up to it. I have no idea. But that's why I'm not going to waste the entire list here. Let me show you. The list that I have of what you can do on the American reversion, there. and I'm still working on it. It'll be more than a page. The list of what you can do for, and this is kind of sad, and I want to suggest for people who are only into the kind of cool bullets, beans, and Band-Aids and hiding in the woods kind of stuff, in preparedness, you're just waiting to be overrun because you're not in a fight. Here's my list of what you can do for the integrated preparedness site. I think it's 3 things. Well, do what you can. What you ought to be doing, number 1, is preparing to live independently and self-reliantly outside the support of those external interdependent systems over which you have no or little control. And that is all found here in my series of books, the Stonemont series. The Reversion, the Revival, the Renewal, and Appeal to Heaven, the Blessings of Freedom, and this last one, the latest one that just came out, it's blowing everything off the charts, Hostages to Fortune. This is a complete battle plan of how you can prepare yourself and your family to survive. In this case, it's a CME. One may be coming. That sun is throwing stuff at us lately, right? It could happen. It could. Scientists tell us it will happen. This is a complete battle plan on how to prepare for and survive that and live well during it and rebuild afterward. You can get these on Amazon. The link is down below. You can get them from Amazon in either paperback or Kindle. But now you can get them from, you've always been able to get autographed copies from me, but you had to mail me something, mail me, which I love. I mean, I like notes and your letters and your cards and the patches that some of the law enforcement guys send. I love that stuff. But now there's an easier way for people that don't want to go through all that hassle. And you can do it through the website, the Stonemont website, stonemont.us, not .com, stonemont.us. And you can go to there. You will find a little bit about Stonemont. You'll find about how to order each of the books. And you'll be able, there's a way for you to put over what you would like me to sign in your book. It's great. We're getting flooded, by the way. It's just that thing is exploding. And as I said on the other one, I ran out of books, and then I ordered a whole bunch more. They just now started coming in. And when I looked at the orders from yesterday, now I've run out again. So I have to put in another bigger order as soon as I get off here, and I will. But go ahead and order through the website, and it'll be good. Stonemont.us. Realize that things are going on right now that are beyond our control and beyond a lot of our understanding because they're beyond our knowledge. We don't know everything that's going on. But what we do know that in an uncertain world, we have to be prepared, and we have to be as totally prepared as we can be. I'm going to make a separate one for those people who just think they can't be prepared. I don't want to waste everybody else's time because I have some very, how should I say, tough love words for those people. And some of them are just bound and determined to wither away and die instead of trying to do something about it. But for those who aren't, I'll make another one on that. That's it. Remember that we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow. You have to prepare for everything. You have to stop thinking about that favorite little thing of yours. And usually when somebody's favorite is because that's what they've got, that's what they do well, or that's what they've got a lot of, right? When all, when all you've got is a hammer, all problems look like nails, right? Well, that's not true. So we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow. And from American Reversion, America needs a reversion. It needs you to be a part of it. And some will be a part of it. Some will do those things that I'll make another video here about. A lot of things can be done for those who are willing to get in a fight. And for those who aren't willing to get in a fight, well, they will be forgotten. They will not be seen as ones who actually tried to help. So You all have a good day. I know we'll be talking more about this. It'll be an interesting weekend or an interesting week next week, and we'll stay on top of it. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.